Welcome, everyone, to another edition of Unravel Your Mind. We're here to help transform relationships to love and life. There is a whole host of questions that I'm so grateful for this week, and I can't wait to dive into them. But I also want to say if you're watching live or you're watching on replay, you can always put your question in the chat, and I'm happy to answer them either on the live show or in next week's show. So every Sunday, 11:11 Pacific time. Let's jump in because there's so many questions today, and I'm excited. The first one is actually, I think, quite interesting and difficult and timely. So let's take a look. With what's going on in Israel and Palestine, how can we better accept the beliefs of others while honoring and not compromising our own? How do we let our light and love shine through and love beyond our differences to help communicate this isn't a war of religion, it's a war of ego? A difficult question and a question that I like, and I'm going to answer it, I think, from a couple of different perspectives. If I go up a couple of notches in consciousness and I just look at what's happening, I think that what we're seeing across the globe in different pockets is that there is a big, deep, dark underbelly that is starting to rise up. Now, I am not a proponent of war. I wish that we could find a different way, but it does feel that there is deep ancestral anger, as we know, that's all coming up, and that this underbelly is being exposed. We've seen it in a little bit different way, I think, here in the United States, where I'm going to say this, and then you have to just listen to this whole thing, but that Trump has really been able to bring this darker energy up. And while on one hand you could say, well, that's bad, it's disruptive. On the other hand, we can say that this is really deep emotion that needs to come forward and needs to come up. I wish that there were ways for us to transform this energy, and there are ways to transform this energy that doesn't involve war, but oftentimes people have to really go there with themselves. And we've seen that in the United States. We've seen this rage and this anger, and anger is simply a suppressed emotion. It is a pile of suppressed emotions. So there's a lot that I think that is being worked out here energetically at a much higher level. And so while that doesn't help when we're thinking about like on the ground, people being killed and violence happening, I think where it does become really, really important is that we start to see ourselves as light beings, that we start to see that our thoughts impact everyone in our household, everyone in our community, everyone in the United States, everyone in the country we live, and everywhere around the globe. When we start to realize that we can only shift our own thoughts, and that we can really bring forward that love and that light that starts to connect, and it starts to be that contagious love that can go all around the planet. We start to heal the planet together. So to get more specific to maybe this, this dimension and what's happening here, how do we let our light and love shine through and love beyond our differences to help communicate? This isn't a war of religion, it's a war of ego. So it's a war of duality, it's a war of separateness. Whenever individuals feel separate, and there's a lot of distractions that help make us feel separate, and a lot of times it is religion, it's politics, it's everything that we just went through with COVID and vaccinations and all these things that came forward to bring separation, to bring my opinion versus your opinion. So who wrote the question is absolutely right. It is a war of the ego. It's a war of the ego mind. It's a war of these thoughts and these constructs that we have built, and these beliefs that we so want to fall on our sword for. It's bizarre in so many ways to think that people are at war over religion, because religion is based on, we hope, we think, it's part of the spiritual illusion, which I'm writing about. It's a construct. It's an idea that was created with, I think, in many ways, good intention, but it's also got a human lens, just like the Bible, for example, was, a compilation of lessons that humans learned from Jesus, right? Learned from God, but they all came through a human lens. So there's a lot of variables there that are not from, oneness, the ultimate reality of oneness. There's a lot of concepts that are there because a human person, through their own lens and their own life experience, brought in what they thought was what Jesus was demonstrating for them as a very enlightened human being that he was. So yes, it is all an ego mind construct. And I think what we can do, back to the beginning of this question, is to shine our own light, and also to just be really conscientious about, where am I spending my time in my mind and with other people? Who am I spending time with, and what is it that we're talking about? And is what we're talking about actually helping to raise each other's vibration, or is it actually like lowering our vibration? Is it making us feel like we're not contributing because we're now kind of in this pity party about stuff? Or are we really trying to transmute all of these things and situations that are happening to us? So I would just get really, really inward on that. I think it's a great question. And I think that the more we can join together with our light and love with others, the more light we can shine on the entire planet, and the bigger impact we can have as a whole. But if we get stuck in all the narratives and all the weeds and all the shit slinging, then that's where you're going to be. And that vibration does not contribute to humanity. So there's lots of really great videos I've seen out there that's sharing about this war and about some of the ancestral history of it. And it's really enlightening to see how we've gotten ourselves wound up so tightly with ideations and illusions about what we think life is all about. So I think just taking that down to our own individual lives and our own circles is where we really can have the largest impact. Okay, let's go to the next question. The next question is couples therapy a good idea? I think it depends. I think that couples therapy can be an amazing thing to do. I think the best thing to do, I don't know if this came from someone who's referring to a new relationship or maybe a more mature relationship, but I think, we all know the obvious answer, which it's communication, right? It always comes down to communication. Sometimes we get wound so deeply into our past history, especially as women. And I know this is a bit of a blanket statement, but women typically have a lot more emotions about situations that happen. And many of us have a much more photographic memory about how our partners have made us feel. So for people who have been in longer relationships, a lot of times it's like you're angry about something, but you don't even know what you're angry about, right? It's like, how do I even articulate like what this issue is? Like, how do I resolve this? And in some cases, I think couples therapy can be really, really great for those situations, because it really just helps each person feel heard, right? I can talk about how I'm feeling. I can be seen and validated by a third party, because that third party, the counselor, is not triggered. But ideally, we want to get to the place where we're always speaking our truth in a relationship with someone else, right? Whether it's a friendship or a marriage, or with our parents or our family members, we want to be able to speak our truth. And to be able to speak our truth, a lot of times what that means is we have to get in touch with our own feelings. When this happened, or when you did this, it made me feel this way. It doesn't make it right or wrong. It just means that, hey, I'm going to be in me, and I'm going to feel in me my reaction to a situation or to something that's said. And so ideally, you can do that outside of therapy. But if you're so wound tight, then yes, of course, therapy is great. And I had a similar question, I think, months ago on this, and I'm always going to throw out the potential option for psychedelics as couples therapy. Especially, well, it doesn't matter if you're far down, and you've been married for 25 years, or you're 2 years into a relationship, because what psychedelics have the opportunity to do in a safe set and setting, and there's lots of clinical trials happening right now with MDMA, where they're actually looking at how they can help couples both shut down that default mode network Get out of the mind and into the heart, so that you can really talk about what is it, what are my wounds, what are your wounds, what is holding us back, what is there to catapult us forward. It really takes 20, 30 years of couples therapy down to probably a 6-hour session together. It's not for everyone. You have to feel into whether that's right for you. It's really important that you find the right set and setting, the right server. And it's not legal yet in the United States, but there are clinical trials happening. So you can look for places that you can do this kind of couples therapy. And I think you'll find that it's just one of the most amazing things to just go back to your innocence and your wholeness of who you really are, and then be able to speak to someone that you really do love and that you've built a relationship with in a way that just comes from pure truth, right? Your truth, how you're feeling, how you're seeing things. And it just helps us to unravel all the crazy stuff that happens in relationships for us. So yes, I think you can do couples therapy. Yes, I think there's other ways to go about it that can help streamline. And yes, I think communication early on in relationship. In fact, I was just having a conversation with someone a little bit different, but I was recommending and seeing how journaling has been so helpful for me, and writing my books has been so helpful, because it's stopped me to have to articulate a feeling about something or someone or a situation. And I was saying that if we as couples and as friends could, and we can, but if we did, just took a minute and wrote down, when we came home from an interaction, maybe an interaction at work, or we just wrote a little bit like, hey, I'm really feeling angry about this, and then just saying, why do I feel so angry about this? Asking your higher self to come in, give me some guidance. Like, what is it? Oh, I'm feeling triggered about that. Or, oh, it really didn't have anything to do with them. They were just the messenger that was there to trigger me, to make me really dig deeper into my own stuff. Right? So journaling, I think, is one of the best ways to have conscious conversation. And it also helps to reduce the emotion. So a lot of times when we come into a situation with especially romantic relationships or family or people who, we have a real history with, if we're able to sit and just reflect on it on our own, it gives us the clarity so that when the emotion comes out, right? So when we're sitting with that person and it gets all funky in our head because we're like emotional about it, or their energy is impacting us in a way that we're not actually being able to just really speak the truth. Writing, journaling, it doesn't take that much time. Sitting with yourself and working it out yourself, as opposed to just it on your partner and hoping that somehow it's going to resolve. It's the best way, I think, to really, really get down to the core of what the issues are, is to journal and to have that inward journey of, why am I calling this in for myself? All right, so let's keep going here. We've got a couple of people on live with us. Please feel free to put any questions in the chat. Okay. The next question is, have you experienced physical issues in the process of waking up, like physical anxiety, and how did you deal with it? So absolutely. I think it's almost impossible, perhaps, to not have some kind of physical issues in the waking up process. And when we say waking up, I know this person is not meaning like waking up out of bed in the morning. This person is meaning having a spiritual awakening where you're actually starting to see life from a different perspective. It's a perspective where you know that you are the creator of your life, and that you are your awareness is starting to expand because you're starting to see how everything is interconnected, and understanding that science and spirituality actually has so many overlays, especially when we're talking about quantum physics and the holographic universe and all of these, like, really, you feel like very difficult topics, but they all help us to better understand the spirituality aspect of things. So as we're waking up in that sense, and our ideations about how this place works start to blow up. Like, if you think about the movie The Matrix, when Neo wanted to know, am I the one? Am I the one? And the Oracle, wasn't going to tell him, because she knew that we all individually have to come to that realization that we are the one. And no one can tell you that. So that is the waking up process. That is the ascension process that we're all here to go through in our own way. Some people aren't necessarily going to wake up in this lifetime. Maybe they're here for a different purpose. Maybe they're here for a different experience. Maybe they're not here to be in that ascension journey. And there's nothing right or wrong about it. It's just that there are lots of people waking up right now. Thank goodness, because there's so many things happening on the planet. And it kind of goes back to question number one about what we can do about wars that are taking place. And it is expand your consciousness and wake up. So the question was very specifically about physical anxiety and how to deal with it. The physical anxiety is coming from the thought constructs that are looping in your head. So there's ideas that, like, gosh, am I going crazy? Am I, how can I believe that this isn't real? How can I believe that this is all an illusion? Am I going to wake up and somebody's going to say, ha, ha, ha? There's all these questions that the mind starts to come in stronger and stronger and stronger. And every step of the ascension process. So it's a juicy time, because you do question yourself and you listen to the mind. And so the trick is to not listen to the mind, but to thank it and say, thank you for that thought, and let it go. Right? Thank you for showing me that. Thank you for letting me know that that's still in my psyche. Thank you for letting me, question myself, but let it go. Because if you don't let it go, it just goes into that circuitous loop of thoughts. It feels like you're walking around the rabbit hole, and if you jump in the rabbit hole, you spiral down, don't you? You spiral. And then eventually you're like, okay, I'm exhausted with this. And it can create that physical anxiety because you're looped into a thought pattern that's not serving you. And it's causing that anxiety. It's causing you to feel like, what do I do with this? What do I do with this? Money is one of those really good lessons that creates a lot of physical anxiety, right? Because it's all about feeling like you could be homeless, or you could not have enough money, that you might not be able to buy some of the luxury things that you want to buy. And so it's breaking through all of these ideations about it so you can get back to your innate birthright of abundance and know that everything is here for you, right? Nothing is happening to you. It's happening for you, because you are the creator of your life. You are the one that's coming in and asking for characters to play these roles and to do these things. It feels like to you, but it is still for you. So that is the waking up process. And yes, there's lots of ascension experiences that you can have, and physical anxiety is absolutely one of them. All right. So, and dealing with it, I think, as we said, is letting go, letting the thoughts go, acknowledging them, thanking it, and letting it go. And again, I'm always going to say journaling. I think journaling is just an incredible way to just release ideas. Another thing that recently came across my path was a little ritual. And if you have a candle, and preferably probably outside, and you have a little matchstick or a little piece of wood of some sort, and just infuse whatever that thought is that you want to release, and just burn it. Have the little match represent what it is that you feel like is just circulating in your mind, and ask Source, your angels, all the powers that be, to help you release it. And do that tiny little ritual, just burning it with a candle and letting it go. Now, be careful; don't throw it into the woods or anything. You got to watch the little stick burn itself out and make sure that it's safe. But it's just a really nice way to honor that you are supported by so many more entities and angels and beautiful souls on the other side, which are all part of you. But it's nice to feel that support, and it's very helpful to let go of some of those negative spiraling thoughts and loops. Okay, let's go on to the next question. My question: how to hold the duality of love and pain, of loving someone so deeply, but also feeling that freedom of letting go of that story, feeling the sadness to release it, holding both in one's personal power. Well, I think what comes to me on this is, I know that you said specifically duality of love and pain, but everything is love and fear. Everything is love and fear. And pain is a result of oftentimes experiencing something fearful. I mean, we're talking about emotional pain, right, in this particular question. And so it's always going back to, where is this based out of? Is it based out of love, or is it based out of fear? And so, since this is very specific to a relationship, I think what's being shown here is that abandonment wound. And now I'm going to say it a little bit differently, because there's different types of abandonment wounds. And when I say abandonment, I'm speaking in this moment of it from source energy. It's like you feel separate. You feel that you're not connected. And that's why we're looking to other relationships to fill our cup, to fill our heart, to make us feel whole. But as we know, they're actually there to just help us through our own awakening process. And they're reflectors to us to show us where we're at in our process. So if you're feeling pain and that you need to let someone go, it's a beautiful place to be, because you're acknowledging an aspect of yourself that you're not either seeing in yourself, or that they are reflecting to you to be able to see and feel and experience. And it reminds me to say that it's all about being able to come back to a blissfully neutral state. So oftentimes we get into relationships and we have those highs, those, I'm in love, everything's great, I can conquer the world. And then there's the plummets of, oh my gosh, they broke up with me, or we're fighting, or whatever. And so if we start to reframe all of those situations and relationships to, what's the lesson in this for me? What is that person reflecting to me? Then it really gets us into that sweet spot of just like coming back to that blissfully neutral state. Ooh, okay, I'm back. I'm happy. I know who I am, and I don't need someone else to show me that I am love, right? Because you are love. You are the one that has the love inside. They're just giving you an opportunity to feel it and express it for someone else to participate in, right? As a witness of your own love for yourself and for others. So it's fear or love. It's not necessarily love and pain, but if you fear something like loss or abandonment, then it feels like pain. So holding both in one's personal power. I just think you don't have to. It's about transmuting. It's not about really, and I'm getting very semantics on this, but it's not about holding necessarily. It's about giving and receiving, right? So it's that flow of, okay, I'm feeling the fear, I'm feeling the pain. Whew, felt it, let it go. Let it come in and let it move through. And that goes for so much of our trauma in life. A lot of people just don't want to go. They don't want to go there. They don't want to go to that traumatic place, or they don't, maybe even their subconscious mind, they don't even know they have it. But it's because they don't want to experience the pain. It's the fear of the pain. But when you actually transmute it and just let it go through you, because you're not in that situation right now. So you can literally transmute it and open it up and release it and let it go. And so there's just such a beauty in that. And so if you're experiencing pain, allow yourself to feel it, but also allow yourself to let it go. And if you're like, I have no idea what you're talking about, and I have no idea how to do that, that's okay. Ask. Show me how to transmute this pain. Help me to feel whole. Help me to feel reconnected to my own heart and to source. Show me, help me, right? That's the energy you want to be in. It's that place of surrender. It's that good, juicy place. So stay there. You don't have to hold on to anything. All right, the next question. Energetic boundaries. Do you get overstimulated with sights, sounds, and energy? I think I have a sensitive nervous system. Maybe that's hypervigilance, a trauma response, or maybe it's genetics. But I also wonder if it has something to do with allowing my energy to open. Suggestions on how to close it. A lot is jam-packed in here. Do you get overstimulated with sight, sounds, and energy? Not that often, actually. There are times when I do, and like this seems like a silly example, but it comes to me. in spin class, sometimes the music is just so loud and I'm just like, whoa, this is overstimulating. And it actually drains my energy and I actually cannot work out as hard because it's a strain on my ears. And so I know that's not the spiritual example that this person's probably asking about, but it is about like, where's your sensitivity level? And as we become more open and as we become more sensitive, yes, things can have more of an impact on us. But I think again, it's not getting so focused on, oh, I'm hypersensitive about this and because then you're just labeling yourself as something. It's in the moment just experiencing it. So I bring earplugs. Maybe I look like the old lady on the spin bike. I don't know. But I bring earplugs and I just, shelter myself from this stimulus. So there's techniques you can use to calm yourself down because there's things that sometimes you can't avoid. You can't avoid a siren. I can't avoid that the train goes by my house because this is where I live. And so I find ways to let that noise just be a positive thing, not a ooh. So a lot of times if I'm talking on the phone with someone and the train goes by, it gets so loud that I have to actually pause the conversation momentarily if I have all the windows open. And what I've started to do just to make it fun is, whatever I'm talking about with that person, if the train is going south, it's a no. If the train is going north, it's a support for a yes. It's just a fun game, but it's a way to just like the train is supporting our conversation, or, someone's cheering us on, or, ooh, somebody's giving us a warning, right? So I make it fun and I don't trigger into the stimulus, because if you get focused on that train or that baby crying next to you in that seat in the airplane, you know what happens. You get really, really sensitive because your focus is in attention to that particular sound. So I would say here that if you're getting overstimulated, try to not let that sound grab you. Just try to move through it, move away from it. You can do things that that help you to just not internalize the stress that some of these noises can cause. So yeah, be sensitive, but don't be so overly sensitive that you're just pigeonholing yourself as someone who's now uh, sight, sound, and energy sensitive. It's a beautiful thing. Now, being hypervigilant, trauma response, yes, all of those things too. I know just recently I was sitting on the plane, and I don't often talk to people in long form just because I like to honor that everyone's just doing their own journey. But this gentleman and I got into just this amazing conversation, and he was telling me about how there was a gentleman that was near a shooting with his child, and that as a result, it was in a crowd, it was unexpected, has this trauma response to loud noises, and he just can't quite get through it. So the subconscious mind does capture this trauma response. It is the anxiety, right? Like it can be even something like maybe you've gotten up in front of a group at work and you weren't able to get the words out, and you were just embarrassed, and you did feel like you just did a terrible job speaking. When you go to speak again, it can be like, whoa, I have that same anxiety that just comes back through, which is a bit of a trauma response. And so finding ways to breathe through it, because you're not in that moment, you're not in the same situation. And yeah, it could happen again, but if you focus on it happening again, that's where you're going to start attracting, right? Law of attraction, the same thing to happen. So breathe deep and, just let the energy dissipate and go back out so that you can leverage your sensitivity. Now it says, is there something I could do to allow my energy to open? Now, I think we kind of touched on this, but in a different way, because it might be that you are so open that you actually just need to close in a little bit. You need to just be a little bit more within yourself and not in the mind, putting all of this weight on this noise. So I would say it might be more of a situation of not closing yourself, but just quieting yourself within. And then there may be times when you need to be a little bit more open. But if you're super sensitive, I wouldn't get the impression that you need to be opening. So, all right. If that does not answer your question, please give me more information and insights in the chat. I'm happy to go deeper on that one. Okay, next question. I'm negotiating the sale of my company, and I'm wondering, will I have a path forward with the company, and will it be filled with grace, ease, and abundance? Well, I would love to tell you a psychic reading on that, but I know that we each have free will, and that whatever it is that you have in your soul's plan is what's going to play out. And I also know that you have free will on your soul's plan. So I think the message here is to get into surrender mode, get out of the mind and get into the heart. And in that heart space, see exactly what you just asked me. In that heart space, see that there is a path. And sometimes we get so focused on thinking, oh, I have to know all the answers and I have to know what's at the end of the path. And then we spend our whole lives worrying about the end of the path and how we're going to get there. And I have this analogy where if you're walking on a little path and let's say it's just, it's nighttime or it's getting close to nighttime, and there's a little light, right? A little lantern there. And then you go, oh, I'm going to take a right here. And then you go along the path and then you see another lantern and you go, oh, I'm going to take this lantern here. And that's that curiosity and that fun of life, of just following the lanterns. And, I also don't think I can say that we make, all right, sometimes we make a bad decision, but I like to think there are no bad decisions. I like to think that we just can make another decision. So if you take a lantern and you go, whoa, wrong way, right? Well, you just take another lantern at another juncture. Don't sit around and beat yourself up about, oh, I took that lantern and now it meant no. No, get the lesson, but move on and then pick another lantern. Keep going. If you sit in that pity party, then you're for sure not going to get to that place that you want to be. So I think you have all the possibilities to have just an amazing thing happen. And when one door closes, we know others will open, but you have to be open yourself to allowing yourself to receive. And oftentimes, I know I do this myself, when you get really bummed out about something and super disappointed or super scared or super frustrated, sometimes it's just hard to be open to receiving. You're like, oh, I just don't want another thing to come my way because I don't know what it is, right? And so it is just being in that really, really soft space with yourself and being in your heart and welcoming whatever's to come. And if it means that you've got a little bit of a bump coming up, you'll get through it, because that bump was sort of pre-planned by you. You put that bump in the road so that you could learn something more about yourself, that you could expand yourself. Sometimes I think, we put these bigger bumps in the road just to humble ourselves. And man, I know I don't like that either sometimes when that happens. And I have to feel like I'm taking a couple of steps back. But sometimes when we take a step back, we see things from a different perspective, and from a perspective that helps us to be catapulted forward. So keep making decisions, keep going one lantern at a time. And I'm certain that everything is divinely guided for you and that everything will work out. And just hold that beautiful sentiment of grace, ease, and abundance in your heart, and be cautious about when the mind wants to come in and hoodwink you and tell you something else and make you fearful. And things can happen, but you're going to make it through, and you're going to find a way to learn from every tiny little bit of those lessons as you go along. All right, next question. How do we know who is right or wrong in relationship when we are both hurting? That's a great question. And it's really simple, actually. No one is right or wrong, because both people just have a different perspective, and they have a different perspective based on their experiences and based on a belief system that they hold, right? So it's actually the opposite, in the sense of not determining that anyone is right or wrong, but feeling heard. Because when we feel heard innately as humans, when we feel heard by someone else, we feel loved. We feel like, wow, you care for me enough that you listened to me. And it doesn't always mean that you say, oh, you're right, or, oh, that makes sense to me. Because a lot of times it doesn't. Like what other people say to us, we're like, I don't know how you got to that, right? But you got there based on a set of beliefs and based on a set of life experiences that made you believe this thing, this way, this whatever. creates an emotion within you. So when you can start honoring that someone has an opinion and you have an opinion, and you maybe come to it with a little bit of curiosity, like, I wonder how it's possible that my boyfriend, spouse, lover, whatever, came to that idea, right? Or that way of thinking. And you find a place within yourself to not be so serious about being heard and find a way to understand their perspective. Again, it does not mean you have to agree with it, but I'll tell you, it changes the energy when other people feel heard. And then you can come to a place where, oh, okay, I see you're coming from this place and I'm coming from this place, and they're two different places. What's our level of commitment and desire to each other and to this situation that we find something where we meet in the middle, right? That's always going to be the sweet spot, is where do we meet in the middle? And as soon as you start offering up your love towards the situation, it softens the other person. And then you know what they want to do? They want to love you back, right? They want to find a way to provide that love back to you. So it's a give and take, and it's a dance. It's that nice dance of, let me just see you differently. But I think the reason why a lot of us don't end up doing it sometimes is that it feels like it takes time. But I guarantee you that if you don't take time in the beginning, you brush it off. Oh, it's no big deal. I'm not going to worry about that. Or, oh, they hurt me, but I'm not going to say anything. It's going to come back. It always comes back. If you don't unravel it on the spot and you don't feel heard and validated, it always comes back. And we know that, especially as women, as I said earlier, we have a photographic memory and we don't let people off the hook. It's a good trait and a bad trait. It just depends on how you look at it, right? But you got to unravel that stuff, and you got to do it right on the spot for yourself. And then if you have the partner that's there and can listen and can be part of it, wonderful. All right. Hopefully that answers your question. If not, give me more insights in the chat. All right. So the next question. I've been in and out of a relationship where we both deeply love each other on a soul level. I'm ascending through my awakening, and yet my partner is stuck in the 3D matrix. I'm working on releasing hope that they will step through. Any thoughts? Isn't this the tale of most light workers out there? We're stepping through, and then we get people who want to just, like, we extend our hand and we say, come on, come with me. And they're like, oh, no, don't go there. And it's that battle, I don't like the word battle, but it's that struggle. It's that push pull. It's that, come along, like, no, you're crazy, come along. And like, no. And, and then your unicorn horn comes out and then they think you're really crazy, but you're like, no, I do believe in magic. And I do believe in the power of spirit. And I do believe in the power of my heart. And I do believe in the power of love. And I do believe in the power of being connected to something that's much larger than myself. And no, I don't want to stay down there where everything is murky and feels like you're walking through quicksand, and my mind is online telling me everything I got to do. And as soon as I do it, it tells me that I need to do something different. And then the next thing I know, I've got all these things happening, and I can't even get myself clear. Clarity comes in connection. It's the vertical column up. It's the light column. It's not down here in this world. It's all about to be in this world, but not of it. Because if you get down into the depths of it, it gets really a slippery slope, and it's harder. It gets harder and harder to come out of it. That's why we've got Palestine and Israel. They've been in this slippery slope for so long, and until people exhaust themselves and actually surrender to a new place, that fighting is going to go on and go on within each one of them. And the only way to stop it is for them to go deeply inward and have that change and that shift. And while that might sound a little bit woo-woo, again, we as people who are awakening agents here on planet Earth, our role is to shine the light and show the way. So that's what we're here to do. We're not here to be in the muck of it all. We're here to unravel ourselves, unravel our own trauma and drama and views, so that we can all ascend together. Because the brighter that the light gets, the dark will start to come up, and the dark will start to be exposed. And I think that is what's happening right now on so many levels and all across the globe. that is bubbling up. And for each one of us individually, I mean, gosh, think about what you've been through over the last 3 years. I mean, maybe even longer than that, but the last 3 years has accelerated for all of us this awakening within. This, I'm going to, muster up all this stuff and the shadow side of things and blow it up and expose it to the light and show myself that I am not that I am light. So I hope that answers that question. And hope. Hope is one of those words that we think it's a good thing. And I just want to say, of course, we can look at hope as a good thing, but hope is a lower vibration than what you might think. Because when you're in hope, it leaves a lot to be desired. And I would just encourage you to say, I know. I hope that they can step through. I know that they can step through. However, I'm going to allow them free will, because that's what they have. Like, it's not you allowing them that, but in your mind, I want them to exercise their free will. I am not going to try to influence that in a highly, complicated way. I'm just going to shine the light for them. I am just going to show them the way that I've taken. They don't have to do it my way. They don't have to do it at all. But I guarantee that as your light gets brighter, everyone that's in the trail behind you, in your wing, they want what you have and they're willing to follow you. And it's only your job to be that example of pure white light. Words are really important. I just pulled back out my book, David Hawkins, Power versus Force, because I wanted to look up, because I had this conversation actually with the person that asked the question, and about what's the vibrational level of hope. And I couldn't find it in his book, but it was just fascinating looking back at how each word has such a vibrational essence. And I'm a wordsmither. In fact, a long time ago, when I went to a reader in Singapore, he said, English is not my first language, and I can tell that you're very focused on each individual word I say. And I was like, oh gosh, I didn't mean to make him feel bad, but he was right. And the reason why I'm so focused on each individual word is when you say, I want, you're going to continue wanting, right? If you say, I wish, or these words are not from that place of I am. When you say I am abundant, as opposed to I want abundance, it's a completely different vibrational imprint that goes out to the universe. When you know that you are, when I am love, right? I don't want love. No, I am love. So I just offer that when you're thinking about hope, because the question was around hope, that that it's not about hope. It's about, I know that everyone has this ability to step through, and I'm going to watch with childlike curiosity how they do it as I embody my own light and I shine brighter all along the way. All right, let's get to the next question. How much independence is healthy in a relationship? If the balance is different for everyone, how do I know what's right for me or us? There's this thing that comes to me. I think it was Stephen Covey, that I'm sure some psychologist came up with it some time ago, but it's about the dependence, independence, and then there's that interdependence, right? And so as we're in relationship, the sweet spot is the interdependence, right? That hey, we know we're here working towards a common goal together, but when one person becomes overly dependent upon the other, it's such a weight. But when someone's so independent that they don't need the other person, it feels like, but why am I here? Because we're in relationship together to support each other on the journey, right? Not to give so much that we feel depleted, and not to get so much that we deplete someone else. So it's a real sweet spot to find that interdependence. And again, it comes back to the communication with that person of, well, what are your needs? And if that person's needs feel too needy for you, then sit with that person. I mean, I'm assuming this is someone you love and this is someone you're committed to. Sit with that person and really feel into, what are their needs? And well, maybe some of that, without making a judgment, is a little bit on the dependent side. And offer, how can I help with that? How can I help with this? Because this feels like it might be too much. It might be taking too much from me if I do that for you. But I want to do some aspect of that for you. So where's the middle ground? So we can be interdependent, that I can count on you and you can count on me, but that we're not over asking or under receiving. So hopefully that's helpful, but it is that interdependence part, because independence is always good. Dependence is always sucking. And sometimes we have to get through some wounds and some trauma to get beyond the dependence part. Same with the independence part, especially when it comes to masculine, feminine energy. The feminine needs to come into a different place right now, because the feminine has become so strongly independent that the masculine doesn't even know where he fits in, right? So that interdependence of the swirl, the beautiful swirl that we have offered to us with masculine and feminine energy, is really the focus of relationships, is helping each other to be in that swirl, whatever your body type is. Whoever's masculine, whoever's feminine, it's about balancing that within you so that you can be in that really beautiful interdependent place, as opposed to dependent or independent. All right, hopefully that's helpful. I would love if anyone, even on replay, has a comment or a thought, a suggestion about masculine, feminine energy. It's just one of those amazing topics that I love to talk about. Okay, next question. Okay, this one's a beautiful question, and this person's given me a little bit of background, so I appreciate that. I'm going to read this. Recently, I am having some challenges in my life, some related to my property, such as water leak and uncomfortable situations with neighbors and the superintendent. Also, I have started a new job in September, and it feels like I need to make huge adjustments in my life. The other day, I ran into someone who lives in the same apartment complex at the gym, and we were chatting and updating about our lives. I've probably seen this person a few times in the same week at the gym, and this person pointed out that I have been complaining a lot, and I am a self-centered person who victimizes myself. I was so shocked by this statement, as I did feel like I wasn't complaining at all. And wow, am I a self-centered person? Though it could be true, depending on how we look at the situation. I have been thinking about this feedback about myself. I am not so sure how to approach this. Am I second guessing myself now, or am I guiding to see myself in a different light? First of all, thank you for your transparency and honesty and the background about the situation. I think that everyone that we have in our life, that even if it feels like a passing stranger or someone sitting next to us, on a bus or a plane or whatever, that there's an exchange of information, but we've always asked them to say it to us. And I know sometimes that feels weird to say, and I question it myself when I'm like, I would not ask someone to say that to me. However, we do, on a soul level, we do ask people to mirror our energy and reflect to us what's going on within us. But sometimes that mirror is also a trigger. Maybe it's not really where you are, but it's a trigger to get you to do the inter-reflection that you're doing, right? So you're reflecting very much on your life and how you're coming across. So I think this is a little angel that's come through. I don't think you have to put a lot of weight on it. I don't think you have to feel bad about it. I think you just go, oh gosh, maybe I am focusing a little bit more on some of the stuff that I don't want in my life versus the stuff I do want in my life. Ease and grace, no plumbing issues, right? So it's just a shift, an opportunity to tweak that energy within. I wouldn't put any more weight on it than that. I don't think you're a self-centered person. I think you got lost in a lot of life stuff that was happening to you, and it just tweaked you. And the chances are you're just such an amazingly positive person that when somebody actually experiences you being a little bit more negative, it might shock them more. And I know this person doesn't necessarily know you that well, but in general, I think that can often happen. So don't beat yourself up about it. Take it for what it is. Thank them for bringing the message. Thank them for just showing you that you want to be in a higher vibrational space about all these things that are happening, and just let it go, because it just causes stress. And then I think I missed the last part of this question. If I didn't share what has been happening to me, this person probably wouldn't have said this, but you asked them to say this to you so you could work through this, right? So that you could not be so hard on yourself and just go, oh, thank you. You helped me see that I was complaining, and that's not me. And I know that's not me. I'm not a self-centered person, but I just got really sucked in to everything that was happening to me. So I think it's beautiful. And just maybe the next time you see the person, just say, thank you. Thanks for giving me that feedback. It helped me just realize that, as positive as I normally am, I just needed to vent, and I appreciate you listening to that and just holding the space with me, if it's appropriate. I don't know who the person is, but that can also just kind of wash it all clean, and then you've really integrated whatever it was that they were coming in to say. All right, we're down to the hour, and actually we're a little bit over. So I so appreciate you here with me. I so appreciate the questions. I appreciate all the insights that you also provide to me. Please, in the comments, if you're watching on replay, feel free to add any question that you might have. I'll answer it next week. And every Sunday, 11:11 a.m. Pacific time, we're here having fun. So I wish you much bliss and love on life's journey. And until next week, have a blissful day.